Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the program this evening, the U.S. Vice President JD Vance arrived in New Delhi today for a 4-day visit, joined by Second Lady Usha Vance and their children. The U.S. Vice President, as you can see over there, met Prime Minister Narendra Modi a short while back to discuss trade and strategic ties amidst the U.S. tariff tensions. The visit, blending diplomacy and cultural exploration, included stops at Akshardham Temple in Delhi, Jaipur's Amber Fort later on, and the Taj Mahal in Agra. With India aiming for a $500 billion trade goal, Vance's trip signals deepening U.S. India relations. As I mentioned, in a solemn moment for the Catholic Church, Pope Francis has passed away at 88 in Vatican City. Cardinal Kevin Farrell announced the pontiff's death, citing natural causes after an illness. The Vatican has begun preparations for the conclave to elect a new pope, with cardinals worldwide converging for the sacred rituals. Pope Francis, known for his humility and focus on social justice, leaves a profound legacy. Flags are at half-mast, millions mourn globally. Stay tuned for updates on the papal transition and tributes to his remarkable tenure. And finally, later on the program, a shocking crime which has shaken Bengaluru, where the former Karnataka Director General of Police, Om Prakash, was found brutally stabbed to death in his residence. The police have named his wife Pallavi as the prime suspect. She's been arrested, with sources saying that she's confessed, citing a heated property dispute as the motive. The wife is also under investigation for possible involvement. The murder has stunned the community. Given Prakash's distinguished service, forensic teams are examining the scene and authorities promise swift justice. Those are the big stories that we'll be having on Left, Right and Centre. But let's quickly focus and turn our attention on this critical visit. JD Vance, the US Vice President, his children, his wife, all over here in New Delhi. JD Vance met the Prime Minister a little while earlier on, as America and India really work to establish that strategic relationship. But I think it's this personal bonhomie which is so significant with the Prime Minister reaching out to the family. They are here besides work on a trip of cultural exploration. Usha Chilakuri Vance, remember, is of Indian origin, a very proud person of Indian origin. And therefore, there is this personal equation and personal chemistry which is important over here. So there is work over here, but also this personal visit. Well, earlier on, to try and understand a little bit more about the significance of this visit, I spoke to Harshvardhan Shringla, our former ambassador to the United States. He's also our G20 Sherpa, and indeed the former Foreign Secretary of India. Well, a crucial visit of the US Vice President to India. What is it all about? What are some of the expectations? Joining us now, a very special guest, former Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla. Thanks very much, sir, for being with us. What are the key takeaways in your mind? The visit of JD Vance, Mr. Shringla, comes at a time when there are trade discussions between India and the United States. Do you see those as being a stumbling block, or do you believe that we'll be able to overcome the differences?
Well, in the first place, I think the visit of Vice President JD Vance is a very important one. Normally, vice presidents in US administrations have a certain level of ambiguity in their roles and functions. JD Vance has found a very, very clear role, one as an ideologue for the Trump administration, but also someone who can articulate the vision and policies of President Trump himself and his administration. So he has his role cut out for him, and I think his coming to India soon after the administration has taken office, within 4 months of President Trump taking office, I think is a sign of the importance that the Trump administration attaches to relations with India. So we have to start from that plane. And in terms of, I think, the discussion that will take place, clearly everything is on the table. Prime Minister Modi as we speak, is himself meeting Vice President Vance. And I think there is a lot invested in that relationship. And I have no doubt that he will be able to, they'll be able to discuss issues that are of interest to both sides and some concerns. And keeping, of course, in mind that, Vice President Vance is not the one who's going to make the decisions when he's in Delhi, but he is an important factor in relaying those, exchanges back to President Trump. And we also need, someone at the top levels of the U.S. administration batting for us, and that's what JD Vance, we believe, will be doing. He has a strong India connect to his wife, Usha Chidikuri Vance, and that, I think, will hold that relationship in good stead at a time when I think, there are huge opportunities, but also some challenges ahead of us.
And that is an interesting factor. Usha Vance over here with their children. He's going to travel to Agra, to Jaipur as well. So that India Connect is very strong. Usha Vance has been a very strong advocate of the India equation. She has very strong India roots. That obviously would have a strong bearing on the mind of JD Vance.
Absolutely. I think she is an important. She plays an important role, obviously, in his life. She's also a very, very qualified lawyer. They both met at Yale, and she's also clerked for the U.S. Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. So I think she has very, very sound credentials, which she brings to her job as Second Lady in the U.S. administration. And JD Vance seems to, from what I can see from all accounts, rely on her judgment and her advice very much.
The United States and China face a great deal of challenges now when it comes to the trade front. India and China have an entirely different set of concerns. Do you believe that the key convergence between India and the United States in the present scenario is to a large extent China?
Well, I think the US and China have issues that go beyond trade. There is a inherent, I would say, tension in that relationship between the predominant power on a global basis and, a sort of aspirant power. And I think that, tension will find its way into different levels of that relationship, whether it's, strategic and defense, whether it is in terms of trade and investments, or in any other area that can come to mind. So there is going to be that inherent issue, which is going to, I would say, be a part of that US-China relationship. We have to see how that plays out. Even if there's a trade deal, so to speak, I think many other aspects of the relationship will continue to, in some senses, be an irritant in that relationship. Now, where do we fit into all this? I think, our vision of a free, open, transparent Indo-Pacific, is one that matches with the vision of the United States and President Trump. And of course, I think we are also very interested in seeing how we can enhance our own economic, I would say, exchanges with the rest of the world. And a China plus one policy is something that I think we have been very interested in capitalizing on. But perhaps this gives us the opportunity to do so. I mean, the trade war between the United States and China does to a large extent, if this continues, provide opportunities for our exports, to find its way into areas that we have not been competitive before. So it's not just China, it's Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, Indonesia, Bangladesh, a range of countries that would be competitors for our goods today would be facing very high US tariffs. And so from that point of view, I think we have an opportunity. We also have an opportunity in large multinationals trying to insulate themselves from the vagaries of this, trade war and the economic, downturn in relationships between the United States and China. And those companies would want to, enhance their investments, in other countries. And India, I think, should offer itself as an ideal destination. Sure. So I think further liberalization of our economic policies, providing an atmosphere conducive to these investments is important in terms of what we can do.
Ambassador, this huge victory which our legal processes, our investigators gained really with Tahawur Hussain Rana being brought back to India, it clearly indicates that America and India are on the same side when it comes to the fight against extremism and terror. No doubt that would come up at some level, perhaps between the Prime Minister and the US Vice President. But do you believe that this cooperation can stretch forward? For example, we've got huge concerns on Khalistani extremism, not just in America, but in other parts of the world as well.
Well, the US administration in general, but Trump in particular, attaches a lot of importance to strategic cooperation with India. in Trump 1.0, which I witnessed at first hand, there were a number of decisions that were taken which were very, very positive from our point of view. One of them was, of course, to institute a 2+2 dialogue of defense and foreign ministers on a regular basis. Another was to come up with the lexicon of the Indo-Pacific. That became a focus area of the United States, but brought in India in a very, very constructive way. Military assistance to Pakistan was stopped because of Pakistan's support for counterterrorism. And the US also worked with us very closely in the listing of terrorists such as, the Jaish-e-Mohammed leader. And I think this cooperation will continue. And you've seen already, as you mentioned, Tawar Rana's extradition, the decision to co-produce and co-develop cutting-edge technologies like underwater sonar equipment, which was denied to us earlier, is a sign that the Trump administration views us as a very, very significant strategic partner. And I have no doubt that this cooperation will continue, especially when it comes to counterterrorism and dealing with those elements that are fundamentally opposed to both the way of life in the United States and India, and are indulging in terrorist and criminal activities across our borders.
I would suggest, Ambassador, that there is still an element of reticence in New Delhi from truly engaging the Americans. Let me give you an example. We pride ourselves in being entirely independent in our foreign policy. We no longer use that word non-alignment, but in many senses, that's what it means. And the example I can share with you is what's taking place off the coast of Yemen, where there is a significant threat to international waterways which are of concern to us. While the United States has a naval alliance over there, we aren't really a part of it. We are sort of independently operating off them. Is this perhaps an example of how India wants to maintain its independence to an extent with the United States?
Well, you have to understand the nature of the relationship that the US has traditionally had with its partners. You're either an ally, or you're, not on the US side, so to speak. And we have never seen ourselves as an ally. We're a partner. We cooperate with the United States in many areas of strategic importance where it suits us. We, as a responsible power, I think we are providing support to coalitions that also patrol the waters in the Gulf of Aden and other waterways that are threatened by terrorist actions. And there's no doubt that we will continue to do that. In what form we do it is a different issue. We do maintain the independence of command and control. I think our naval ships cannot be under the command and control of another country. So all of these factors have to be kept in mind, because we are not another small, country that can work as an ally to the United States. We have to keep, a larger, a global view and take that into account. But having said that, I think we are cooperating. We are increasingly, I would say, operationalizing, or there's a greater level of interoperability when it comes to defense equipment. We are sourcing cutting-edge US equipment in all areas. Co-production and co-development has become the norm, whether it's the GE 414 engine that we are getting, or whether it is, the Stryker, vehicle, or the Javelin missile. I think that seems to be an acceptable norm now. So we will cooperate across the board. We are doing exercises, and I think that is part of the process. But we are not an ally, and I don't think this is something that's on the card.
India and America have spoken a great deal about resilient supply chains. That was linked primarily to semiconductors. But associated with semiconductors are, of course, rare earths and minerals. And China faces, the United States is now got its own set of concerns. They are worried about how much they're importing from, let's say, China. At the same time, they are very keen to partner with us, and they've already started that process in setting up resilient supply chains in semiconductors in India as well. American companies have been looking at opportunities. Over here, we've got our own companies keen to work with the Americans. Do you believe that given the growth of our economy, the critical importance of evolving computer systems, whether it's in defense space or any other area, that this is likely an area of convergence which can really drive the relationship?
I think there's a huge amount of importance given to our cooperation in the area of technology, strategic minerals and rare earths. And I think that was part of what was earlier called ISET, but now is part of the program called Trust. And that will definitely continue. We will continue to work with the US and other partners from what I can see in areas that secure and our supply chains, make them more resilient. And of course, I think today's age of technology denial is already evident in the US proscribing certain top-level semiconductors as far as China is concerned, and China preventing the export of magnetos and other rare earths, which cannot be procured from elsewhere except China and is needed for the US auto and other industries. So this is going to be an increasing process of mutual denial. We've already seen that in the case of the 5G technology. What do you go in for? Who are your trusted partners? Whom can you work with and whom can you not? My sense is that our cooperation with the United States and other partners in such areas is going to increase, and we are going to only take forward that level of cooperation in cutting-edge areas, whether it's space, whether it's nuclear energy, or whether it is, as you mentioned, strategic minerals and rare earths. We will increasingly collaborate with our partners to create an environment that would enable us to continue without being at the receiving end of a denial regime.
A final question, Ambassador, and this is a tricky one. On the one hand, it's been the job of people like you to protect the interests of all citizens of India when they travel abroad. On the other hand, when it comes to, let us say, students leaving our country, wanting to settle down in countries like the United States, there are many in India who suggest that, look, it's your choice to go abroad, but we would rather have you over here in our economy, which is thriving. Perhaps many more jobs are being generated over here compared to most other countries. But now we find ourselves in this tricky situation when you've got Indian students, Indian nationals in the United States who are being told, please return home because of a new set of policies. There are cases where it seems that it is unfair. Kids with parking violations, traffic violations, in some cases they don't even know what their violations are, have been told, please return. Is it not incumbent upon us to protect our nationals in the United States, particularly students who are the most vulnerable?
Well, there is no doubt that every country exercises the right to, allow citizens from another country to work or study or live in that country. But having said that, I think we do have a close enough relationship that we can have a candid conversation with the United States on this very critical issue that you've raised. Many of our young people have spent a lot of money going to the US to gain knowledge and to undertake higher education courses. It would be very unfair to ask them to leave on frivolous considerations like parking tickets and other reasons that we hear about. And we need to bring this to the attention of the US, and I believe it's already done by the Ministry of External Affairs. But the visit of Vice President JD Vance, I think, provides an opportunity at the very high level to articulate what is our view. I mean, after all, Indian talent is the one that's driving the United States tech industry today.
All right, Ambassador Shringla, thank you very much for speaking to us. Indeed, a very crucial visit. Let's see what comes out of it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Vishnu.
Now joined by Dan Geltrude. Besides anything else, he's known as America's accountant. I'm also joined by David K. Johnston, journalist and author. David, let me come to you first. In just the last 10 minutes, there's been a press statement which has come out in India. You may not have seen it. It's an Indian press statement where one of the sentences is that the Prime Minister conveys greetings to President Trump and looks forward to his visit to India later this year. So that's an announcement. Trump's going to be in India later on this year. Modi's already had a chance to meet him. JD Vance in India presently. The images on our screen are of Modi meeting JD Vance's kids. This being the case, I mean, what does it say about the state of the overall relationship? I know atmospherics is only a small part of diplomacy, but what would you draw from these images that we've got on our screen?
Well, all of this has become very complicated because Donald is so mercurial. We have a tariff set up. We don't have a tariff set up. We flip flop on this back and forth. As you were just discussing with the previous guest, throwing graduate students out of the U.S. or undergraduate students because of parking tickets and other minor matters. Donald, however, remember, he has significant income from India. His name is on several buildings, and he's going to be very protective of and interested in not interfering with his cash flow from those buildings. And he has always tried to work with Modi. We have a clear history of Donald trying to work with Modi, and Modi, of course, was at the White House not that long ago.
Okay. David K. Johnson, the other statement which has come is that they welcome progress in the India-US bilateral trade agreement and efforts towards enhancing cooperation in energy, defense, and strategic technologies. I think that bilateral trade agreement is something that both sides have been trying to work for a while. And that also comes at a time when they're trying to fix the entire tariff issue. Do you think tariffs is going to be a real hurdle between India and the US, or it's something that they can sort out?
I think tariffs are a real problem with India and with the rest of the world. I mean, Donald has this very crazy notion that the country to which a tariff is applied pays the tariff, which is not at all true. But once Donald, who I've known and covered for 37 years, has an idea in his head, it's almost impossible to get it out of his head. So I think there will be some kind of an arrangement that's reached at some point. But you can't negotiate, as the Trump White House is trying to do, more than 100 separate tariff agreements on a bilateral basis and do it in a period of what's now less than 90 days.
Okay. Dan Geltrude, would you like to take that question?
Sure. I believe that the relationship between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi matters a lot. I think these types of relationships with Donald Trump matter. And I believe that there is going to be good faith negotiation between the two countries. Look, I have yet to speak to anybody who doesn't have a positive view regarding the relationship between the United States and India. So I do believe that a deal will be reached, and it'll be a deal that is fair to both sides. I mean, let's be truthful here. India is going to try to get the best deal that they can for their country, and the United States is going to try to do the same thing. And in between, some level of compromise, I believe, will be reached, and the United States and India will be able to enjoy, I believe, a very fruitful relationship.
David, to what extent do you believe that the bond between India and America is premised on shared concerns over China, strategic shared concerns?
Well, both the U.S. and India have good reason to be very concerned about the communist regime in Beijing. I frankly would be more concerned about India's relationship with Vladimir Putin, that I think is very dangerous, the sale of weaponry to him and the oil sales that have benefited India because Putin has been selling oil at a severe discount from the world price, which has, by the way, fallen about 25% in the last month or so. So both of them are going to be concerned. I would not be surprised if we see a move by the European Union, the UK, Canada, Japan, South Korea, Singapore, Australia, and New Zealand to create a new free trade zone that excludes the United States, that may include India, and if it were open to China, it would be on a limited basis. But the Chinese are continuing to push their comprehensive trading zone idea. They haven't gotten it implemented anywhere, but they have not given up. And the Chinese, unlike Americans, think long term. Americans think in terms of 90 days and 2-year elections. China, like the Catholic Church, operates from the principle that we're here forever.
You know, David, just on a couple of two points that you made, I tend to disagree. Firstly, when it comes to the import of oil, there is the sense that if it can be America first or any other country first, it needs to be India first. We've got incredible energy requirements. You're getting a good price from Russia. India most certainly wants peace in Ukraine. I was in Kiev when Prime Minister Modi was over there as he tried to figure out some sort of peace initiative. It didn't work out. But be that as it may, the other point is the strategic relationship between Russia and India. That's something that India can never let go of. And that's something America will need to accept. Just as a basic point, 270 fighter jets of the Indian Air Force, 270, right? In fact, 272, which are ranged largely against China, are of Russian origin, Sukhoi 30s. You can't get rid of that overnight. And that's just one system. The large number of tanks of the Indian Army are Russian T-90 and T-72. You can't get rid of that overnight. And, I can go on and on. So the point that India tends to make is that we are independent in our foreign policy. We have a wonderful relationship with America, but we have a wonderful relationship with Russia as well. Is America willing to accept that? That's my question to you.
Oh, I think the United States understands that there has been a long-standing relationship between Moscow and Delhi, that's not going to change. My point was that India has been a beneficiary of the sanctions on Russia because it's been able to buy lots of oil at deeply discounted prices in the $40 per barrel range.
Yes.
And that has been a benefit to India, which is still an emerging economy. It's not a fully developed modern economy yet. So cheap oil from Russia. But on the other hand, buying that cheap oil also helps Vladimir Putin continue his efforts to oppress the peoples of Ukraine and his stated desire to put back the old Soviet empire under the boot of the Kremlin. And that should worry everyone, including India.
Okay. Dan Geltrude, the fact that India is close to the United States, but also close to other countries, including Russia, which is a big problem in the United States for some of the reasons which David mentioned. How do you see that?
Well, I think that everyone understands that a country cannot isolate itself from the rest of the world. The way the global economy works right now, everybody really needs to do business with everyone. It's completely a global economy. The point I think here is to focus in on is that China is really the common adversary between the United States and India. I want to be clear. China, they're not the good guys at all. And China is also taking a position now to say that countries that do deals with the United States related to trade that they believe is not in the best interest of China could face some type of retaliation. So this battle between the United States and China, thankfully it's not military at this point and it's economical, is going to really draw in the rest of the world. China may be taking a position to say, you're going to have to choose a side, which is going to be a very, very big predicament for everyone. So in the end, it is in everyone's best interest that we come up with fair trade deals across the globe. No one wins in a trade war, no matter what. Even if the United States, even if President Trump gets everything he wants, there is going to be pain with this process, which is not a good thing. So the quicker this gets done, and I agree that 90 days to get all these deals done is a pretty tall order, but hopefully they will start to happen. Prime Minister Meloni from Italy was in the United States. She was very positive about that meeting. Of course, JD Vance in India right now. I think that's a positive as well. And I think there's a lot of other countries that don't want to be part of a trade war. They want to do deals and move on.
All right. All right. Well, I'd like to thank both of you very much for joining us. The India-US relationship is critical, and it does have its challenges. Let's see how both countries address those.